A Dale County pastor is dead from a shooting just days before Christmas.
The sheriff's office confirms 31-year-old Dequarius Green died Saturday in the hospital. Investigators say Green was shot during a domestic dispute. It happened inside a home in the Freedom Heights neighborhood off Rucker Boulevard in Level Plains early December 23rd. He had just preached for Elba Zion Missionary Baptist Church's Christmas program just days before. Court records show Green previously faced multiple domestic violence charges, and as of now, no charges have been filed in this case.
I get just excited that I know who Jesus is, and there are plenty of people in the world that wake up every day not knowing who Jesus is.
It started with a Facebook post. I keep PPL out of my personal business, but yes, I filed for divorce 2 weeks ago. God bless you all that have called and texted me. Cheers to a new journey. That was Quinteria Massey.
Hey, I don't know who need to hear this. Maybe me, maybe you, maybe a woo-da-woo-da too. But you better act like you know who the you are. You better act like you know. Because game recognized game and you looking kind of unfamiliar right now, partner. So let's get the up, get the right, and get the on.
December 2025, Montgomery, Alabama. Then came the shooting. Then came the Facebook Live. A woman named Tracy Palmer talking about love, about loyalty, about a man who wasn't here to speak for himself anymore. Then came the sister, Green's sister, and she wasn't having it. It's crazy how one person can get on this app and tell 1,000 lies and people ran with it. By the time Pastor Dequarius Green's funeral happened, the internet had already decided who was guilty. Folks were picking sides. Folks were sharing posts. Folks were in the comments section playing detective. But let me tell you what actually went down. Welcome to Crime and Humanity. Every crime is a human act, shaped by choice, circumstance, and consequence. Crime and humanity are deeply intertwined, and here we explore real cases by looking beyond the act itself, focusing on the people involved and the lives forever changed. We don't just examine crime. Subscribe and turn on notifications as we examine what it reveals about being human. Pastor Dequarius Green, Montgomery native, man of God, father, husband, and according to everyone who knew him, one of the most humble people you'd ever meet. His friends called him Slim. Some just called him Green. He was the pastor of Elba Zion Missionary Baptist Church, a small congregation where everybody knew everybody. Before that, he worked at Walmart.
My friend there, baby. Goddamn, come to Walmart and donate. His daughter needs some food. She leaning. Oh, Lord, he whooping the baby.
May you find strength for the love and care, surround, comfort, and all the members you share.
Nothing fancy, just a regular job where he'd clock in, do his work, and still find time to minister to folks in the aisles. Minister Devontae Palmer, no relation to Trice, by the way, knew Green from those Walmart days. They weren't close friends, but their paths crossed often. Palmer would stop by after his shift just to check on Green. 5-10 minutes. Nothing major, just two men of faith chopping it up. And look, Palmer remembers one moment that stuck with him. He said,
got me when he came to the church. You know, I had no idea he was coming. He actually surprised me. He tapped on my shoulder and said, Brother Palmer, oh snap. I had no idea he was coming that day.
That was Green, the type to show up unannounced just to say hello. The type who made you feel seen. Palmer described him like this. To me, the man was a humble man, clears throat, an honest man, deeply loved God and his family. Another friend said Green was very loving because that was what his touch was. He was a loving person. He was loving, caring, kind. No matter what you did, Green was going to show love. People talked about how he'd give hugs every time they came to church, how he always had your back, how he was just caring. One woman remembered, he used to give me hugs every time I went to church. He always had your back, and he was just caring. Green wasn't flashy. He wasn't trying to build some megachurch empire. He was just a man doing ministry the way he knew how, with love, with consistency, with his whole heart. He was respectful, he was kind, he was always dressed nice, not in an expensive way, but in a put-together, I respect myself and you way. Minister Palmer put it plain. Pastor Green, he was human, right? He was a man of God. He was a father. He was a husband, a hard worker. He did not deserve to die. He did not deserve to die. But here's the thing about life. It doesn't care what you deserve. It doesn't care how many people you hugged on Sunday. It doesn't care how humble you were or how much you loved God. Because while Montgomery knew Pastor Green as a man of faith and service, there was something happening that most folks didn't see. Something that was about to unravel everything. Green was married to Quinteria Massey. And by December 2025, that marriage was falling apart. Now, we don't know all the details of what went wrong. We don't know how long things had been rocky. What we do know is that 2 weeks before Christmas, Quinteria went on Facebook and made it clear. She had filed for divorce. Cheers to a new journey. That's what she wrote. Not sadness, not regret. Celebration.
I'm at the point in my life right now that I don't have to get even with nobody. You know why? Because most of the people I got to get even with, I got to back up to do it. When you realize who you are, it'll change who you argue with.
And then there was Trice Palmer. According to Green's sister and the whispers going around Montgomery, Trice wasn't just a friend. She was involved with Green, romantically involved. But here's where it gets messy. Because according to Green's sister, in the days before he died, Green was trying to cut Trice off. He was tired. He stopped answering her calls. The sister said, "Please don't let me expose what was said about you in the group chat from my brother-in-law about you. He was tired of you, and he stopped answering your calls if you want to be real. Tell that." So now we've got a triangle, a pastor, a wife who filed for divorce, and another woman who wouldn't or couldn't let go. 3 people, 1 house, and tension that was about to explode. So let's talk about how things fell apart because it wasn't overnight. It never is. By December 2025, Pastor DeQuarius Green's life looked like this. A ministry he loved, a congregation that needed him, a wife who wanted out, and another woman who wasn't ready to let go. Quinteria Massey filed for divorce 2 weeks before Christmas. And when she posted about it on Facebook, there was no sadness in her words. No pray for us, or we tried our best. Just this cheers to a new journey. That tells you something right there. She was done. Not trying to work it out, not asking for space. Done. And while Quinteria was celebrating her new beginning, Tracy Palmer was still in the picture, still calling, still reaching out. But according to Green's sister, something shifted in those final days. Green was tired. He'd had enough. He was trying to cut Trice off. The sister said it plain on Facebook. "Please don't let me expose what was said about you in the group chat from my brother-in-law about you. He was tired of you, and he stopped answering your calls if you want to be real. Tell that." So Green stopped answering. He was pulling back, trying to create distance, but Tracy kept calling. Now we don't know what those calls were about. We don't know if she was begging him to stay, if she was angry, if she was confused about why he was suddenly ghosting her. We just know she kept trying to reach him, and he kept ignoring her. The sister made it clear he was tired of you, and he stopped answering your calls. This is where things get tense, because when somebody's trying to walk away and the other person won't let them, that's when situations get dangerous. That's when emotions run high. That's when people do things they can't take back. Green's sister also said something else, something that reveals just how messy this whole situation was. She wrote, "If you know, you know. When it comes to my sister, she isn't going to get on here and prove a point to anyone, especially when it's from someone that's been jealous of her." So now we've got jealousy in the mix. According to the sister, Trice Palmer was jealous of Quinteria, jealous of the wife, and then the sister dropped this. "Everything you said was a lie, but it's cute. Since you wanted to make a traumatic time like this about you." His family knew who she was, and yet they aren't talking. He didn't have a relationship with his mama from his own words while she started with the lies. So Green's family knew about Quinteria. They knew about the marriage, and, according to the sister, Green's own mother wasn't even in his life the way people thought. But none of that mattered anymore because days before Christmas, in a home in Level Plains, Alabama, something went terribly wrong. December 2025, Level Plains, Alabama. Pastor DeQuarius Green was shot not in the streets, not during a robbery, not in some random act of violence. He was shot in a home. Police would later classify it as a domestic incident. That's law enforcement language, for this happened between people who knew each other, people who lived together, people who loved each other. The details of what happened inside that house are scarce. We don't know what words were exchanged before the gunshot. We don't know if there was an argument. We don't know if it was planned or if it happened in a flash of rage. What we do know is that Green was hit, and it was bad. He didn't die right away. He fought. He held on for days. Minister Devontae Palmer said,
So devastated, because I was like, I couldn't believe this happened to him. And of course, then to find out how it happened and who did it, that was even more devastating.
Friends and church members started hearing the news. The man who gave hugs every Sunday. The man who surprised you at church, just to say hello. The man who loved God and his family. He was in critical condition. For days, people prayed. The Albion Missionary Baptist Church family prayed. His friends prayed. The community prayed. But prayer couldn't change what had already been set in motion. Days after the shooting, Pastor DeQuarius Green died. He was gone. And Montgomery was left asking the same question everyone asks when something like this happens. How did it come to this? When police arrived at that home in Level Plains, they knew immediately this wasn't a break-in. This wasn't a stranger. They labeled it a domestic incident. That means whoever pulled that trigger was someone Green knew, someone he had a relationship with, someone who was supposed to love him. Now, the thing about domestic violence cases is that they're complicated. You've got emotions, you've got history, you've got secrets that the public doesn't know about. And in this case, you've got a wife who just filed for divorce. You've got another woman who wouldn't stop calling. You've got a man trying to walk away from one situation while still legally tied to another. But here's where it gets frustrating for everyone watching this unfold. As of the news reports, no charges had been filed. The investigation was ongoing. That's it. That's all the public got. No arrests, no suspects named, just ongoing investigation. And for Green's friends and family, that was torture, because they knew who did it. They had to know. But the legal system moves at its own pace. Minister Devontae Palmer spoke about Green one more time after his death. He said, Pastor Green, he was human, right? He was a man of God. He was a father. He was a husband, a hard worker. He did not deserve to die. He did not deserve to die. But he did. And while police were building their case, another battle was happening. Not in a courtroom, not in an interrogation room on Facebook. So while police were investigating, while the church was planning a funeral, while Minister Palmer and others were grieving, a whole different kind of battle was happening online. Tracy Palmer went on Facebook Live. Now, the Facebook Live video is quite lengthy, so we are going to input the video at the end of this story for you to watch and have a better understanding of this story. But we know she was telling her side of the story, her version of who Green was to her, her version of their relationship, her version of what happened. And Green's sister, she wasn't having it. The sister came to Facebook ready for war because in her eyes, Trice was lying. Tracy was making this about herself. Tracy was trying to rewrite history while her brother-in-law was dead and couldn't speak for himself. The sister posted, "It's crazy how one person can get on this app and tell 1,000 lies and people ran with it." She didn't stop there. She wrote, "If you know, you know. When it comes to my sister, she isn't going to get on here and prove a point to anyone, especially when it's from someone that's been jealous of her." Translation: Quinteria, Green's wife, wasn't about to get on social media and defend herself against someone who was jealous of her in the first place. But the sister, she was going to speak up. She went directly at Trice. Tracy Palmer, I guess you were not a best friend after all. Tell the truth, that's all we want. Or just let the family speak for him. And then she dropped the bomb. Tracy Palmer, please don't let me expose what was said about you in the group chat from my brother-in-law about you. He was tired of you, and he stopped answering your calls. If you want to be real, tell that. So, according to the sister, there were group chat messages where Green talked about Tracy, messages where he said he was done with her. The sister continued, everything you said was a lie, but it's cute since you wanted to make a traumatic time like this about you. His family knew who she was, and yet they aren't talking. He didn't have a relationship with his mama from his own words, while she started with the lies. Now, this is messy because what the sister is saying is that Trice was lying about Green's relationship with his own mother, that the family knew exactly who Quinteria was, and they weren't saying anything that Trice was making herself the victim when she wasn't. And look, but whatever it was, it set Green's sister off. Because when you lose someone you love, and then somebody goes online telling what you believe are lies about them, that's going to hit different. That's going to make you react. The sister saw Tracy's live and said, not today. But here's the thing about social media. It doesn't bring anybody back. It doesn't solve anything. It just puts pain on display for everyone to watch. Green's family was hurting. Tracy Palmer was hurting. Quintaria Massey, who just filed for divorce and was now facing whatever legal consequences might come. She was in a whole different kind of pain. And the community, they were trying to make sense of it all. While the internet was fighting, Montgomery was mourning. The Elba Zion Missionary Baptist Church, where Green had served as pastor, held a prayer vigil. People came together to remember the man they knew, the man who gave hugs, the man who showed up unannounced just to say hello, the man who loved God. At the vigil, green balloons filled the air, dozens of them rising up, floating away, carrying prayers and memories with them. Green balloons for a man named Green. People stood together. They cried together. They prayed together. Friends shared stories. Minister Devontae Palmer talked about the conversations they used to have at Walmart, about how Green would surprise him at church, about how humble he was. Others remembered his kindness, his love, his faith. One person said he was very loving because that was what his touch was. He was a loving person. He was loving, caring, kind. No matter what you did, Green was going to show love. Another said, he used to give me hugs every time I went to church. He always had your back and he was just caring. The Elba Zion Missionary Baptist Church posted an official statement. They wrote, with heavy hearts yet unwavering faith, we share that our beloved pastor, Dequarius Green, has transitioned from this earthly life into eternal rest. We thank God for his time of faithful service, love, and spiritual guidance poured into the Elba Zion Missionary Baptist Church family and the community. Though we mourn, we rejoice knowing that a life well lived in Christ has now received the promised reward. We ask that you continue to keep his family and the Elba Zion Church family lifted in prayer during this difficult time. That's how they chose to remember him, not with the mess, not with the drama, not with the Facebook wars. They remembered the ministry, the service, the faith. And honestly, that's probably what Green would have wanted, for people to remember the good he did, the lives he touched, the love he gave. But the reality is, you can't separate the man from how he died. You can't talk about Pastor Green without talking about the fact that he was shot in a domestic incident, that his life ended not because of an accident or an illness, but because of violence in a home. Domestic violence doesn't care if you're a pastor. It doesn't care if you're respected in your community. It doesn't care if you give hugs every Sunday. It just destroys. Pastor Dequarius Green was a father, a husband, a man of God, and a hard worker. He did not deserve to die. But on a December day in Level Plains, Alabama, his life was cut short by the very thing he preached against: violence, hatred, the opposite of love. Montgomery lost a man who believed in second chances, who showed up when he didn't have to, who made people feel seen. And the sad truth is, no matter how many green balloons float into the sky, No matter how many vigils are held, no matter how many Facebook posts are written, none of it brings him back. Domestic violence leaves no winners, just graves and questions nobody can answer. This is Crime and Humanity. We'll keep bringing these stories, telling these stories so their names are never forgotten. Just so you know how intertwined crime and humanity is, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. Leave a comment and let us know what you think about this case.